In a racially charged city, Judge Amani Carter faces the ultimate test of her integrity as she confronts Officer Mark Reynolds, who embodies the systemic biases that have long oppressed her community. When Amani is unjustly arrested while defending her son, Tarek, the personal outrage quickly evolves into a powerful movement for justice. As the courtroom erupts with passion, Tarek finds his voice, standing alongside his mother to challenge societal norms and prejudices. With their community rallying in solidarity, Amani learns that change begins with shared stories and collective action. Her fight becomes a beacon of hope, inspiring transformation not just within her family, but across the city. As the crowd rises, together in support, Amani realizes that true strength lies in unity, and the journey toward justice is just beginning. This gripping tale of resilience highlights the unbreakable spirit of those demanding change, reminding us that together they can dismantle the barriers of prejudice and pursue a brighter future for all. The courthouse stood as a testament to both hope and injustice. A large banner fluttered outside, reading, "Justice for All," a powerful mantra echoing in the hearts of the community members gathered. Inside, the air felt thick with tension, charged with anticipation. Judge Amani Carter, a black woman in her early 40s, strode into the courtroom with a determined expression. Her heart raced as she scanned the room filled with supporters, familiar faces holding signs in solidarity. Among them was Rosa, an elderly community leader renowned for her wisdom, who offered Amani an encouraging smile. "You're here for the right reasons, Amani," Rosa whispered, filled with conviction. "Just be yourself." Amani nodded, the weight of the moment settling over her. She knew she had to stand firm, not just for herself but for every person who had suffered under systemic injustice. As the door swung open, Officer Mark Reynolds entered, flanked by several colleagues. His hardened expression exuded authority, confidence that stemmed from familiarity with the expectations of his role. But beneath that bravado, Amani sensed the deep-rooted prejudices that clouded his judgment. "Let's get this over with," Reynolds muttered to his partner, dismissing the weight of the situation. "Just another day in court, but I'll make sure she knows her place." Amani caught sight of him and felt a surge of apprehension. Life as a judge had always been intertwined with her identity as a mother, and today the stakes had never felt higher. She took a deep breath, pushing her worries to the back of her mind as she advanced toward the bench, her heart steadying with purpose. "Order in the court." Amani's voice rang out, commanding attention. "We're here to seek justice." Reynolds crossed his arms, a smirk playing on his lips. "Let's see how righteous that justice truly is." Amani felt frustration bubbling inside her, but remained resolute. "Justice isn't a game, Officer Reynolds. It's the duty we owe to our community." Reynolds shifted, his confidence beginning to falter as Amani's conviction permeated the courtroom. In the back, Tariq, Amani's teenage son, shifted nervously among his friends. His heart mirrored his mother's struggles, fear mingling with pride. "Is Mom gonna be okay?" he asked a friend, uncertainly lacing his voice. "She's strong, man," his friend replied. "She's got this." As Amani continued, her words began to fill the room with a palpable sense of hope. "I stand before you not just as a judge, but as a mother, a daughter, and a member of this community. Today, we fight against systemic bias that has too long shaped the lives of individuals like my son, and so many others." Tarek's pride swelled as he listened, his mother's bravery igniting a spark within him. "You can do this, Mom," he whispered to himself, his resolve starting to crystallize. Amani pressed on, the fervor in her voice rising. "We cannot allow fear to dictate who we are. We must unite against prejudice, not just for my family but for every family facing the weight of these unjust chains." The crowd reacted with murmurs of agreement, and as Amani's words filled the room, the atmosphere transformed, sparking a movement of solidarity. Reynolds glanced at the audience, feeling the fervent gaze of the community pressing upon him. "This isn't a rally, Judge. This is a courtroom," he argued, desperation creeping into his tone. Amani stood her ground, her eyes locked onto his. "And it's time we address the truth. How many times has my son been unfairly judged because of his skin? How do you sleep at night knowing you protect the system that perpetuates this injustice?" The courtroom fell silent, the weight of her words settling heavily in the air. Reynolds felt the walls closing in around him, grappling with emotions he had long buried. You don't know me or my struggles," he finally murmured, his firmness wavering. "But I know the system you serve," Amani replied, her voice steady. "And I know its consequences." As the judgment settled on the air, Tarek rose from his seat, emboldened by his mother's courage. All eyes turned to him, raw emotion filling the room. "She's right," he declared, his voice clear and strong. "We're not just statistics. We're lives worth fighting for." The crowd erupted into applause, and Amani's heart swelled. She had ignited a flame, her words resonating in the hearts of the community members. Reynolds watched, overwhelmed, the old beliefs he clung to crumbling before this surge of unity. Amani seized the moment. "Let's change this path together, Officer Reynolds. We can work toward building a community that embraces our differences, not shuns them." Gripped by the emotional tide, Reynolds found himself questioning everything he had known. "You think we can change things?" he asked, uncertainty creeping into his voice. "I believe we must," Amani responded fervently, "for all our futures." Just then, Amani's passion filled the courtroom, igniting hope and weaving a connection that transcended their differences. The audience began to chant, voices rising together, demanding justice and equality. As the scene unfolded, the audience knew it marked only the beginning of a new chapter, one where they would confront prejudice head-on and strive for the change they desperately needed. Amani Carter entered the courthouse with a sense of purpose radiating from her. The hallways were bustling, but today felt different. Today, she wasn't just a judge, she was a mother determined to fight for justice. Her heels clicked on the polished floors, echoing the resolve in her mind. As she moved through the corridors, she noticed a young defendant sitting nervously on a bench. His hands were fidgeting with the fabric of his shirt as he stared at the ground, fear etched on his face. Amani approached him and knelt to meet his eye level. "Hey there," she said softly, hoping to ease his anxiety. "You're going to be okay. I believe in you." "What if I get sentenced?" the young man replied, his voice trembling. "I didn't do anything wrong." Her heart ached at his words. She recognized that fear all too well. The weight of her role as both a judge and a mother pressed heavily on her shoulders. "You have to trust the process," Amani encouraged him with a reassuring smile, stirring a protective instinct within her. "Justice can be slow, but stand tall. Your voice matters." With a deep breath, Amani straightened up, knowing the audience waiting for her outside were counting on her. Just then, shouts erupted from the street, pulling her attention. A group of young people were gathered outside, their voices chanting fervently for justice and equality. Their urgency echoed the very reasons she stood there today. Without hesitation, Amani stepped outside, joining the chorus of voices demanding change. "Justice! Equality!" she shouted alongside them, her spirit igniting in solidarity. Among the protesters, she spotted her son, Tarek, standing with a group of youth. His expression lit up with pride when he saw her. "Mom, you're here!" he exclaimed, his voice filled with excitement. Suddenly, Officer Mark Reynolds strode into view, his presence commanding as he attempted to assert control over the spirited protest. However, his authoritative demeanor was met with fierce resistance. "This is not a place for protests. You're disrupting the peace," Reynolds shouted, misjudging the energy of the crowd and misreading Amani's intentions. Amani felt the tension rise and confronted him head-on. "These voices deserve to be heard, officer. The community is fighting for their rights." Reynolds' facial expression hardened as he dismissed her words with a wave of his hand. "You're setting a bad example, Judge." Amani's resolve deepened, anger mingling with her determination as she faced him directly. "Bad examples are made by those who choose to turn a blind eye. Are you truly protecting this community, or just enforcing outdated beliefs?" Her voice rang out, commanding attention while exposing the biases that lay beneath Reynolds' surface. The crowd gasped, bolstered by Amani's courage. Reynolds' bravado began to chip away under the weight of her challenge. "I'm just doing my job," he retorted, frustration lacing his voice. "And what kind of job is that, officer? Stifling the very voices you're supposed to protect?" Amani pressed on, her heart racing as adrenaline pulsed through her. Suddenly, the atmosphere surged with energy as the crowd pressed closer, feeling the gravity of the confrontation. "Back off, or I'll have to take action," Reynolds snapped, sensing the escalating situation spiraling beyond his control. Before Amani could respond, he motioned for backup, and panic surged through her. In an instant, she felt hands gripping her arms. "What are you doing?" Amani gasped, shock flooding her system. "You're under arrest for inciting a riot," Reynolds declared, the weight of his words striking a blow to Amani's core. The crowd erupted in gasps of disbelief, and Tarek pushed forward from the throng, his eyes wide with horror. "Mom!" "Stop!" he shouted, desperation in his voice. Amani turned to him, her heart breaking at the sight of her son's fear. "Tarek, it's okay. I will be all right. Stand strong." As she was taken away, a whirlwind of thoughts raced through her mind. A judge who couldn't protect her own son, a mother facing authority. These roles collided in a tempest of self-doubt. Who was she now? In a moment of solitude in the holding area, Amani grappled with her identity. How did it come to this? She pondered, questioning whether she had failed. Visions of her past flooded her mind. Childhood memories of facing prejudice that felt like chains wrapped around her. Images of her younger self surfaced, tears streaming down her cheeks as loneliness enveloped her. "Why don't they see me for who I am?" she once whispered to her mother, who comforted her with words that felt distant now. "People often can't see past their own fears," her mother had replied. "But you must rise above." Amani closed her eyes, trying to steady herself. Shoulders back, chin up. She had to remember the strength within her. The images of the young people outside, their voices raised against injustice, ignited a fire inside her. The sounds of the crowd grew louder, their chants of support swelling around her. "Justice for Amani? Equal rights for all," she inhaled, deeply, letting their words breathe life back into her resolve. This wasn't just her fight, it was a fight for everyone in her community. As she gathered her thoughts, she locked onto the glimmer of hope. We must break the chain of prejudice and fear, she found herself thinking. Stand together for justice. In that moment, Amani knew she had to be the beacon of light that illuminated the path for others. As she envisioned the change they could create together, she prepared herself for the fight ahead. Amani Carter stood in front of the mirror, the early morning light casting a warm glow on her determined face. Today was the day she would confront not just her own fears, but the deeply entrenched systemic injustice that had affected her life and the lives of countless others. As she walked to the courthouse, a mix of nerves and resolve throbbed in her chest. The streets buzzed with anticipation. Supporters had gathered outside, holding signs that boldly declared their demand for justice. The vibrant colors of the banners contrasted sharply with the somber nature of the court proceedings ahead, yet the spirit of community filled Amani with determination. Entering the courthouse, Amani surveyed the room. The atmosphere was thick with tension, a palpable energy that crackled in the air. She could see familiar faces, supporters and a few skeptics, each embodying the broader societal divide that had plagued their community. Taking her place at the front, she felt the weight of their expectations resting upon her shoulders. The judge's gavel struck, silencing the murmurs, and Amani's gaze shot to Officer Mark Reynolds, who was standing with a smug expression on his face. To Amani, he represented everything wrong with the system, a symbol of the prejudice she was ready to challenge. "Are you ready for your big moment, Judge?" Reynolds sneered, his condescension barely concealed. Amani clenched her fists, determination bolstering her resolve. Today, she would speak for those who had been silenced. "This isn't just about me, officer," she asserted steadily. "It's about everyone who's been affected by this broken system." The judge's voice interrupted their exchange, reminding the room of the task at hand. "We're here to discuss the case of Judge Amani Carter against Officer Mark Reynolds." Amani prepared to speak. She noticed the whispering audience growing restless, their emotions simmering just beneath the surface. Taking a deep breath, she steadied herself and stepped forward, her voice rising with passion. "I stand here not only as a judge but as a mother," she declared, her words ringing with authority. "The systemic bias that led to my unjust arrest affects my son and countless others. We cannot allow fear to dictate who we are." Her powerful words hung heavily in the air, and as she spoke, the emotional tide in the room began to shift. Amani could sense the crowd leaning in, their energy transforming into a collective force. Suddenly, Tarek, her teenage son, stood up, his face flushed with bravery. "Mom!" he called out, a mix of pride and fear in his voice. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to Tarek, concern and encouragement flickering in the air. "I'm scared every day," he confessed, his voice firm. "Scared that someone will look at me and only see a stereotype. But I can't let fear control me, just like you said." Amani's heart swelled with pride as she looked at her son, his courage shining through. The audience erupted into cheers, their voices rising in support, showcasing the unity and strength that flowed through the community. "Mom, you always fight. For us," he continued. "I want to do that too." As the cheers grew louder, Reynolds' expression wavered. He was thrown off guard by the unexpected surge of support for Amani, grappling with the reality of the situation unraveling before him. "This isn't about fear. This is about maintaining order," he retorted, desperately trying to regain control. Amani's voice intensified, exposing the cracks in his defense. "And what kind of order comes at the cost of lives, officer? Your badge should stand for justice, not oppression." An uncomfortable silence enveloped the courtroom, and Amani could feel the tension rising. Reynolds struggled with an inner conflict, his loyalty to the badge warring with the righteousness of Amani's assertions. The judge cleared her throat, attempting to bring the courtroom back to order and stalling the passionate exchange. "Let's take a moment for a recess." As the crowd began to disperse, Amani and Reynolds stood momentarily alone. The air crackled with unspoken tension as Amani caught a glimpse of Reynolds, his demeanor less confident now, his brow furrowed in thought. "You don't know my history," he muttered quietly. Amani inhaled deeply, looking him in the eye. "Neither. Do you know mine?" An understanding began to bubble beneath the surface, and Reynolds felt the walls he had built around himself crack ever so slightly. "What does this have to do with the badge? It's just how I've been trained." He trailed off, realization dawning. "We can unlearn what has been taught, officer. It's hard, but think of our communities. They deserve better than this," Amani said earnestly, her heart full of hope. A flicker of hesitation crossed Reynolds' face as he wrestled with the truth of her words. "You make it sound easy," he replied, a hint of vulnerability breaking through his bravado. "It's not easy," Amani responded, "but it starts with a choice. You can be a protector or a perpetuator. In that pivotal moment, they stood at a crossroads, potential change hanging in the air between them. Tarek's bravery fueled Amani's resolve, and she was ready to fight not just for her own future, but for everyone whose voice yearned to be heard. "We can create a system that works for everyone," Amani urged, her heart racing with hope. Together. As silence settled in the courtroom, the gravity of their shared struggle began to shift. Amani felt a sense of unity blossom, a burgeoning alliance against prejudice that could ignite real change in their community. The courtroom was charged with anticipation as Amani Carter stood before the judge, her heart racing in her chest. Today was the day justice would be unveiled, a moment she had fought tirelessly for. She could feel the weight of her community's hopes resting on her shoulders, and the air was thick with tension as the judge prepared to announce the verdict. After reviewing the evidence and testimonies, the court has reached its verdict on the case of Judge Amani Carter against Officer Mark Reynolds. The judge's voice boomed, cutting through the silence. Amani's breath caught as everyone held their collective breath, the magnitude of the moment enveloping them all. She briefly scanned the courtroom. Familiar faces stared back at her, some filled with hope and others with skepticism. "Officer Reynolds," the judge continued, "you are found guilty of misconduct in the line of duty." Gasps filled the chamber, and a wave of disbelief washed over Amani. Relief and a sense of triumph surged through her as the implications of the verdict settled in. This was not just a personal victory. This was a win for everyone who had suffered under the weight of systemic injustice. "This cannot be happening," Reynolds protested, his face a mix of shock and anger. The judge's expression remained firm. "You will be suspended from your duty, and your badge is forfeited effective immediately." As the judge's words echoed in the air, Amani felt tears prick at her eyes. Friends in the audience erupted into applause, cheers of joy filling the room as a sense of accountability washed over them. Amani embraced her son, Tarek, who rushed to her side, tears of pride streaming down his cheeks. "You did it, Mom," he exclaimed, his voice breaking with emotion. "We did it, Tarek." Amani smiled through her tears, embracing him tightly. This victory was indeed for all of them, a battle won in a war yet to be fought. Around them, community members exchanged excited whispers, their spirits lifted by the ruling. Yet, among the celebrations, the bittersweet reality of their struggle lingered in the back of their minds. This was just the beginning of a much larger fight for justice and equality. "Now we must act," Rosa, a wise community elder, declared as she stepped up beside Amani. "Our voices must continue to be heard. We've taken a step forward, but we cannot stop here." Amani nodded in agreement. Her mind raced with thoughts as she addressed the crowd, driven by a newfound sense of responsibility. "We need to have conversations about police reform and systemic change," Amani urged, her voice rising with conviction. "This fight isn't just about me. It's about all of us. We need our stories to be recognized and our experiences validated." The crowd roared in approval, feeling the energy of unity and determination swell among them. Tarek stood tall. Beside his mother, a growing sense of confidence blooming within him. Inspired by Amani's courage, he knew he wanted to make a difference. "Can we organize a rally?" Tarek proposed to his friends, excitement lighting up his face. "We need to show everyone that we stand united." His friends quickly agreed, their voices bubbling with anticipation as they jumped into action. Days turned into a week, and the collective efforts began to amplify. The air was vibrant with anticipation as Amani worked alongside Rosa to prepare for the rally. They met with various members of the community, ensuring that everyone felt included and valued. "Each story matters," Rosa emphasized during one of their meetings. "We must share our experiences. It's not just about this ruling. It's about our fight for systemic change." As the day of the rally approached, the excitement was palpable. Amani stood amidst the crowd on the day of the event, feeling a deep connection to the community that had rallied around her. There was an undeniable strength in their voices, a chorus of determination that filled the air. Justice for all, the crowd shouted, their voices merging into a powerful chant. People began to share their stories during the rally, shedding light on their experiences of prejudice and the struggles they had faced. Each narrative wove together a tapestry of resilience, and Amani felt a sense of purpose flood through her. "We're here to stand against injustice," Amani called out, her heart racing as she addressed the audience. "Together, we can create a system that upholds justice for everyone." As the rally continued, the community resonated with her passion. The power of their unity shone brightly, and the seeds of hope for transformation began to grow. Later that evening, as celebration swept through the air, Amani watched her son take the stage. The pride swelling in her heart as she observed his bravery was overwhelming. "Together, we have the power to change this," Tariq proclaimed, his voice ringing with conviction. "I promise to fight for a future where everyone is treated with respect and dignity." The crowd erupted into cheers, their energy electrifying. Amani felt tears of pride in her eyes as she realized how far they had come, the journey of resilience having brought them to this pivotal moment. In the days that followed, conversations around reform flourished. Amani emphasized the importance of education, discussing programs that would empower both youth and law enforcement in their shared pursuit of equality. As the community united, a sense of commitment enveloped them. They envisioned actionable plans that would help sustain the momentum of their movement, a continuous effort to dismantle the barriers of prejudice. Reflecting on their journey, Amani couldn't help but feel a renewed sense of hope. The struggles they faced had sparked profound change within themselves and their community. The journey toward justice was ongoing, but with Tariq and her community by her side, Amani felt ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. In that moment, the future shimmered with possibilities, and the strength of their resilience illuminated the path forward. They had planted the seeds of change, nurturing a dream of a world rooted in justice, equality, and understanding. With the rally's energy still pulsing through their veins, Amani and the community stood together, facing the horizon with a heart full of hope and the determination to continue their fight for justice. If this story resonates with you and inspires you to stand up against injustice, don't keep it to yourself. Join the movement for change by sharing this message with your friends and family. Let's spread awareness and spark conversations about the importance of equality and justice for all. Make sure to subscribe for more impactful stories that highlight resilience, empowerment, and the fight against prejudice. Together, we can create a community dedicated to making a difference. Your voice matters. Let's amplify it.